Welcome to the Iona-UConn podcast with your host, Guy Flottico.
What's up, Gale Nation? This weekend was the most glorious 2 days with 2 titles clinched on Saturday and then Selection Sunday yesterday for both the men and the women. And today is glorious because it's Season 3, Episode 26 of the Iona-UConn podcast. And in this episode, we'll be previewing both of Iona's first-round games in the NCAA tournament. The Iona men will be taking on UConn on Friday at 4:30 on TBS, while the Iona women will travel to Duke on Saturday. Don't see a time or network yet for that one, so stay tuned there. In terms of UConn, got a bit lucky as regular podcast visitor Sam Federman is a UConn diehard. And honestly, I doubt anybody in the country has watched as many Iona and UConn games combined as him. So who better to welcome back to share his takes on the matchup? Before we get into the previews, a note about the schedule for this podcast. Well, if you follow me online, and you probably do, you heard me say it, I will not be able to attend our NCAA game in Albany, of all things, because I'm going to be in Aruba. Yeah, I know. Don't feel bad. I didn't pick the dates. The trip came to us from my wife's job. I had no say in the matter. I just hope the hotel bar is TBS. So there will be no live tweeting from me, and even with an upset over the Huskies, sadly, I won't have another episode until next Monday, the earliest. Hey, maybe that episode will include a preview of our Sweet 16 game, which I would be able to go to. Or it could include sad recaps of the UConn game and the women's game at Cameron, and double down on us with our coach packing his bags. So, wow, no idea where the next episode is going. Rough time for me to be out of the country for sure. Anyway, with all that said, let's dive into the previews of our NCAA tournament games. Cameron Indoor is one of the college basketball's great cathedrals, as tough a place to play as there is, and our Lady Gales will get a chance to experience it on Saturday when they take on Duke in the first round of the women's NCAA tournament. Iona garnered a 14 seed and earning a date with the 3rd-seeded Blue Devils. All right, there's really not a ton to say about this one. Duke goes 11 deep. They're extremely balanced. No one averaging more than 11.5 points per game. They defend like heck. They only allow 51 points per game. The whole team's 35%. Overall, 28% from three. They're not particularly awesome offensively. 63 points per game, 41% shooting from two, 32% from three. So if we can hold up defensively, we can turn this into a bit of a grind. I think we can get some preliminary stops, but can we keep them off the glass? As you'd guess, they're going to be quite a bit bigger than us in the front court, so that will be a challenge. On offense, we're really going to have to value the ball and create open looks. I suspect this game will be shooting more threes than normal, and we'll have to make a good percentage to stick around. Out of the gate, the team can't be in awe of their surroundings. Definitely enjoy and take in the moment, but come out and make things happen early and trigger that confidence up and down the roster. That's what it takes to pull off this kind of upset. Good luck to Coach Chambers and the Lady Gales. Guess what, everyone? We're going back to Albany. The Gales are a 13 seed, drew 4 seed UConn at MVP Arena, Siena's home court. Interesting draw for quite a few reasons. We've got storylines. Rick Pitino with reports he's Big East bound, taking on a Big East team. We've got former UConn national champion Talik Brown right on our bench doing the preview of the game. If Pitino indeed leaves, some out there believe UConn assistant Kamani Young might be a target to take over in New Rochelle. And we have the fact that Iona brought in Pitino to help get over the NCAA hump and win a game. Now Coach Pitino gets his second try to pull that off against a team some are eyeing as a Final Four contender. So why is everyone so in love with UConn? Well, it's going to start with 6'9" junior forward, Adamas Nadago, inside, of course. 17 points, 7 rebounds, 59% from the floor. Just an amazing force inside for the Huskies. If you haven't seen him, think of a pissed-off Nelly. How's that? Sonogo's a beast on the glass and is an elite back-to-the-basket scorer. Really a real challenge for our more mild-mannered Nelly. Let's stay in the paint. When Sonogo goes off the court, you don't get that much of a break. They only bring in 7'2" Frosh, Donovan Klingen, and he averages about 7 and 5 block shots as you'd expect. Just a real pain to deal with inside because of his size and his bulk. Pitino already said this at the selection party. Silas Sunday is going to play in this game for sure. hopefully he can stand his ground there. On the perimeter, 6'5" sophomore guard Jordan Hawkins is a budding superstar. 16 points per game, 37% from three. I can see it now. Barrick chasing him all over South Pearl Street now, trying to keep him from scoring. Probably his toughest assignment of the season. Same goes for Nelly, of course. But this is what happens when you jump up in class like we are in this game. Also on the perimeter, 6'5" senior guard Tristan Newton is another tough weapon. 10 points, 36% from three. UConn has other guards they'll turn to as well to support these guys. Perhaps a weakness for UConn. The team lacks a true point guard, a true quality ball handler. So the hope here is that Iona's press can be disruptive enough to not allow the game to settle into a half court where Sonago is going to just clean our clocks. I mean, he may do that anyway. Probably will do that anyway. But you know what I mean. On the wing, UConn has 6'6" junior Andre Jackson, averages 7 and 6. He is basically their version of Barrick. He's a great defender, and I imagine the two will match up against each other, so that'll be fun. He'll probably be the one guarding Barrick, yes, but he's their Barrick. Complementing Sonogo inside, a 6'8" redshirt freshman forward, Alex Caraban, averages 10 and 4, 41% from three. So, obviously, it's UConn. You know, Ken Pom and Annette have them as a top 10 team. How they got a 4 seed is beyond me. So that there's their high level look of a team that's going to obviously be a considerable favorite against us. I'm seeing lines around 9 to 10 points at the moment. I'm sure it'll move a little bit. But this is obviously a tough task, and I'm going to flip it and give you what could lead to disaster for us in this one. UConn leads the country in offensive rebounding. If you've watched Iona's games this year, and if you look at Ken Pom, it's one of our biggest weaknesses is giving up offensive rebounds. So that's fantastic. We're basically going to need all 5 guys to rebound, hit the glass, which will probably keep us from getting out of transition as much as we'd like, which would actually probably hurt us. I think we really don't want to settle into a half-court game against a team that's bigger and as athletic, if not more athletic than we are. We're not used to that for sure. So that we'd rather just go out and run and just see what happens, I would think, but we can't. Not gonna be able to do that. You're gonna need to have 5 guys stay back to help rebound. So anyway, this is one of those games where for us to have a chance, we're gonna need to limit them somehow on the offensive glass, and that's just what they do. So good luck there. So like I said, there's gonna be plenty of prognosticators who have UConn making noise in this tournament, but just to keep it real, there have been plenty of times where UConn has looked, vulnerable. They did not look overly impressive in either of their wins over hapless Georgetown, barely double-figure win at home, and just by a couple points down in D.C. Even more, this UConn team lost at home to St. John's. Ew. And of course, the irony isn't lost there that they lost at home to St. John's. Anyway, so if you want to go watch a UConn game before we see them on Friday at 4:30, I'd pick one of those 3 games so you can see what makes them vulnerable and feel better about the matchup before game time. So I'll be the first one to admit I am not an expert on UConn, but that's okay. We know somebody who is around here, our friend Sam Federman. Let's welcome him back to the podcast to talk about the Gales and Huskies. Well, since we had him on to help preview the MAC tournament, it's only fair to bring in a diehard UConn fan and Sam Federman back to just give us a quick thought or two about the MAC tournament that we just all enjoyed, and then help us preview the Iona-UConn NCAA game. Sam, welcome back.
Oh man, I'm miserable.
Because I can imagine. I mean, it's hard not to be kind of a fan of Iona if you watched him as much as you have.
It's not that I'm a fan. It's just that I want the best for the league.
Yeah.
And I've watched this team. I like the characters. I like the people. I think they're good people on this basketball team. I could care less if they win or lose against any other team. But I like the people and I want the people to be happy. I don't care about the institution.
Fair enough. And just quickly, let's talk about the MAC tournament. Obviously, the other side of the bracket blew up like we all kind of thought it might. Maybe not to the maybe a little beyond what we thought. What your thoughts on the MAC tournament?
Mac's gonna Mac. Juju Murray's gonna be a first teamer next year. Pat Gardner is incredible. Iona's too good. Barrick just too athletic with that block. You had to know the run was coming right after that. I texted Nick Lawrence, and he runs the Mid-Major Madness Twitter account. I said, "Here comes the run, momentum changer, 30-9 after the block."
Yeah,
It was it was really tough to watch Marist after that. It was tough to watch Marist for most of the season. So I mean, it was kind of just a return to that. I don't think anyone expected the game to go the way the tournament to go the way it did, but that's the MAC for you. Ryder lost to St. Peter's. Siena, Niagara, that was a really good basketball game, honestly. It really didn't feel like a failing upwards game. Siena, though, that was just a really bad way to finish their season. Overall, I think Quinnipiac should be very disappointed with themselves. I think pretty much anybody not named Iona, Marist, and St. Peter's should be disappointed. Niagara, I don't know about disappointed, just and then the Mount and Canisius. I don't know like what to say about their tournaments. The Canisius should have won that game. They blew it. The Mount should be glad they won it and they put up a fight. But I mean, overall, I just think Marist, St. Peter's in the semifinals just was ridiculous.
Yeah. And what did you think about Atlantic City? It sounded like your tone changed a little bit. I know you're a big proponent of on-campus tournament games. I'm totally against it, so we can argue about that all day. But what did you think about Atlantic City?
Now, I still believe that on-campus tournament games for one bid league are the way to go, but I gained a lot of respect for the tournament in Atlantic City over the trip. However, the venue is so cavernous. It's just I wish there were like a smaller venue to do it in. Like the CAA uses the G League Arena in Washington, D.C. If there were a place like that in Atlantic City, it would be great. It's just I think it looks really bad for the league to have that many empty seats. Overall, the venue was really like has that charm of renovated 30 years ago and not renovated since.
Yeah.
It's not a bad building. It's not a great building. The crowd really came out. That's what I was really surprised by. I think overall, much more of a proponent of it. I would still say I would rather have campus sites or the UBS solution, but I wouldn't mind this over Albany now.
Same. That's how I feel. I feel like we don't really have too many choices if we're going to stay in an arena setting. So, all right, let's talk NCAAs. I feel like UConn was underseeded. Iona got what we kind of all expected. Your overall thoughts when you saw that matchup up on the screen as a UConn fan too.
So as a UConn fan, my initial thought process was, okay, we're going to Albany. This is going to be a UConn home game. And like, Iona will bring people that they really will. UConn will bring like triple. It's just the nature of a state university. It's nothing against Iona, but I think the thing about UConn and Iona, they're kind of similarly built in terms of bigger athletic guards. They have like you compare Walter Clayton Jr. with Jordan Hawkins and as a shooter, as an athletic shooter who can score on all three levels, but is most elite as a shooter. You can kind of like Barrick John Louise is obviously not Andre Jackson, but they do have the defensive wing athleticism type to their game. And then Nelly is kind of like a Sonogo type, except
Sonogo's like a pissed off Nelly.
Yeah. Like I feel like Sonogo has like the similar weakness of like a lot of inconsistency around the rim. The issue with that is for Iona is Adama might be the strongest man in college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw what happened when Nelly faced Ajiri Ogamuno Johnson, who's the strongest man in the MAC. It didn't go well for him. I think Pitino is going to have to just drill it in that he has to not try and back down Adama. But even if you try and face him up, Adama's quick. He's there's a reason he's an All-American.
Yeah. Yeah.
And UConn has, I mean, look, I love Danis Jenkins, Walt Clayton, but UConn's going to have the two best basketball players on the court in Adama Sanogo and Jordan Hawkins. And for Iona, a lot of the times, a lot of these matchups, like if Iona drew Virginia or if Iona drew like Tennessee, they could have had the best basketball players on the court in that matchup. But it's just not how it works when it comes to UConn, a team that's as talented as they are.
When I was just reviewing UConn game by game because I watch them, but I don't obviously follow every game they do like you do. The games that jump out at me, of course, the home loss to St. John's, both games against Georgetown. What happened in those games?
So St. John's, I was actually at Iona Rider that day, so I wasn't able to watch fully. But that was the game where you like have a players only meeting after it. There was no effort, no energy, nothing. It was just a straight up bad, sloppy basketball game. It was like they weren't prepared and they needed an immediate wake up call after it. And they didn't get it. They lost to Seton Hall the next game, and
yeah,
it really felt like it was free fall.
Okay.
Georgetown, the home game. I mean, look, Georgetown is very talented. They're about as talented as Iona is, if we're being honest here. Primo Spears, Jay Heath, Brandon Murray, Kudus Wahab, Akuk Cook, like they're so talented. They can play with a lot of teams for stretches of the game. And that was UConn's first like adversity of the season, and they overcame it really well. Calcaterra took over that ball game. And then the Georgetown away game, that was in that stretch where you get DePaul away, Georgetown away. And that game was interesting because Tristan Newton played really well. Andre Jackson played pretty solid. But Jordan Hawkins really kind of struggled in that one. And Alex Caravan hit the dagger. I think UConn just has so many scoring options that they can go to when people aren't having their best day. When, say, it's not Hawkins' best day, it might be a good day for Calcaterra. It might be a good day for Aline, who's really come on well recently. UConn has a ton of talent, a ton of depth. And look, Georgetown in that game, they credit to them. They played really well, but I think UConn certainly was one of the best teams in college basketball this year overall.
Yeah. So one of the beautiful things about Twitter is you get a game like this and then you just put into search Twitter, you just put Iona-UConn in, and everything, of course, every tweet that comes up is, going to have something about it. And I purposely did that after the bracket came out because I wanted to see what UConn fans were saying. Some of them are already putting themselves Sweet 16, Elite 8, just like a lot of the prognosticators are already doing on TV. But then you have the paranoid fans, and those are the ones you want to kind of tune into as an Iona fan. What are they worried about? And they're worried because, we don't have a true point guard. We're gonna struggle with their press. You think that's true?
Yes, and it's nothing against Tristan Newton, who is legitimately one of my favorite players in the country, but just not the same as if we had an RJ Cole at the head of the attack this year, like we did last year.
Right.
Iona's press could give UConn trouble, but I'd like to flip the coin and say UConn's press could give Iona trouble because UConn is longer and more athletic than Iona.
Yes. Yeah.
If Tristan Newton plays if we get weekday Tristan Newton, because like that's a thing. Like Tristan Newton on weekdays is like really good. It's like a UConn Twitter gag. If we get weekday Tristan Newton, this game could be over by halftime.
Okay.
Because I've seen UConn go into games against good teams up 15 at the half.
Hmm.
And I think UConn has played a lot of teams better than Iona in the
Well,
Big East.
yeah.
And Iona's really good. They and I've watched this team a lot this year. If things click for UConn, this game won't be close. Iona needs a Iona needs to make UConn's things not click. Iona needs to really chase Jordan Hawkins around every screen. That's going to be Barrick's task. I already know it. And with Shema, that's the mismatch that I'm looking at with UConn because there is no one like Oz Shema in college basketball. But what Shema does a lot of is he'll kind of flare out and try and leak out for threes. So I think as long as he doesn't, as long as UConn is able to close out on those attempts, because in the MAC you don't have the athletes that are able to close out on that. With UConn, like Andre Jackson can close out on that. These guys can close out on it. Klingon is so big. He can close out. Klingon coming into the game off the bench, if Nelly doesn't if Nelly gets into foul trouble, Klingon against like a Silas Sunday or a Shemba could be an interesting matchup.
So here's something, when you are a fan of a MAC team and you go into Ken Palm, it's like, okay, they do this really well, they don't do this really. You can see right away, okay, they're 238th in this, but they're, I don't know, 126th in this. So, okay, so they might be pretty good at this. Obviously, when you look at a UConn or anybody that's in the top 30 or so, they're good at everything. So I'm looking at them trying to say, okay, what can I pick out here? Well, where's there an opening? And I did the turnover rate for UConn was a little bit was about as bad as an offensive number they had, considering where they rate offensively on the whole. So that's why it kind of validated that a little bit. But then I glanced and I saw the one number that terrified the crap out of me, and that's that they were UConn is
Rebounding.
number one in offensive rebounding, which is the one thing Iona is terrible at.
It's kept UConn in games this year. Let's be honest here. It kept UConn in the Marquette game. UConn got 16 offensive rebounds against Marquette this weekend. UConn, the Iowa State game, UConn got 21 offensive rebounds. In that Georgetown away game, UConn got 19 offensive rebounds. In the big wins against Marquette and Providence at home in February, 21 offensive rebounds and 15 offensive rebounds. It's really done a good job keeping UConn in games this year, even when they're not making their shots. And when they are making their shots, it's just unstoppable.
Okay. So I think we've kind of hit on this already, but I'll ask you again to summarize. Why does Iona have no shot in this game?
Basically, Iona tries to do what UConn tries to do. UConn's just better at it.
Both sides of the ball?
Both sides of the ball. UConn's better at it. I mean, 6th in the country in offense, 18th in the country in defense against, I mean, with all due respect, 79th and 67th. We're in different leagues here. Like, this is the Big East versus the MAC. I know it's and I have great respect for everything that the MAC does, but we're in it's a different league here.
Okay, now let's flip it. Hey, this is a 4 versus 13. We've seen these upsets before. How does Iona pull this off?
If they hit their shots, and it's gonna come down to Nelly being able to force Adama into dumb decisions. If the guards for Iona can make this game if the guards for Iona hit their shots, force turnovers with the press, and Hurley doesn't adjust, I know Rick Pitino will adjust. I know Talik Brown will adjust. I don't trust Hurley as much to adjust as well. We just saw Providence go into a 3-2, and UConn didn't call a timeout until it was too late. Thank God they won that game but oh boy, it got way too close at the end. Iona is better coached, and that's nothing against Hurley, who I think is awesome. And Iona has some really damn good basketball players. They've won 14 basketball games in a row. Iona's really good at a lot of different things. UConn's really good at a lot of different things. I think it's going to be a really fun basketball game.
Yeah, well, that's what we're hoping for. Obviously we brought in Rick Pitino to win an NCAA game. Here's his shot. He's not gonna. I mean, this might be his last one.
Let's not sugarcoat it. This is. I'm like 95% sure this is his last game at Iona.
Yeah, well, but it's not if they win.
I give you. Okay. 95% sure this is his last season at Iona.
Fair enough.
I'll give you 5% better than most people will.
I'll take it. So yeah, I mean, this is why he's here. So if somebody's gonna cook up something different, a curveball of some sort, it's gonna be him in this scenario.
And Talik's been on staff with Hurley.
Yeah, that's right. So
I'm really excited for this game.
Yeah,
a lot more excited than I was initially.
Yeah, well, I of course will not be at the game, believe it or not. I'll be away on vacation. I did not get to plan the dates on that. I won't even be live tweeting it. I'll be hoping just make sure I can watch it at this point. But
I won't be there. I won't be there either. I'm gonna rush like home as fast as possible to watch it. If it were the late game, there would be a chance I would drive up to Albany for it, but no.
Yeah. Well, let's hope we have a good one no matter what. And enjoy the rest of the tournament, and we'll be in touch with you over the break, I guess, once the season's over.
Yep. All right. Thank you so much. And hey, you know what starts tomorrow? Portal Combat.
That's right. That's enough. That'll keep you busy. So that'll be fun too, to follow how the portal shapes our game as we move forward to here as the season winds down and the verbal commits Twitter account heats up. So
yep.
So all right, well, enjoy the tournament, my friend. Thank you for coming on. Good luck to both teams. Although I'm not.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
I want to hear your initial Final Four picks.
Oh gosh, I'm not having UConn there. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Gonzaga's in my head. I don't know why. I really don't trust them, but they're in my head. I do like Alabama, but so does everybody else, which makes me not like Alabama. So I have to look at it. I haven't really studied and made a real assessment yet. And sometimes I've been very good at my brackets, and sometimes they've just been destroyed by the end of day 4. So, I'm very hit or miss.
All right. If you're not going to give a Final Four, I'm not going to give a
Nah, you can hold on. You'll tweet it out anyway. And most of the people listening to this probably follow us on Twitter anyway. So
yeah.
So we'll see it. So we'll enjoy the tournament. Thank you again for coming on.
Of course.
Go Gales and screw UConn. No,
Huskies.
I'm kidding.
Go Huskies.
Enjoy, man. Take care.
All right.
Bye. Thanks again to Sam Federman for dropping by and helping us preview. It's time to dare to dream, Iona fans. We are significant underdogs in both games, make no mistake. Can we pull off a miracle? We'll find out. See you guys next time on the pod. Thanks for listening. Go Gales.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the Iona-Hoops.com podcast. This podcast is a production of Iona-Hoops.com and its publisher Guy Filatico. The opinions shared during this podcast are those of Guy Filatico, Iona-Hoops.com, and any featured guests. This podcast is not affiliated with Iona University Athletics or the university itself. Thank you for supporting Iona-Hoops.com.